So it hasn't even been a full 24 hours since the Pusha T, the story of Adidon, I believe, has been released. And, obviously I'm making my jokes on Twitter. Follow me at your music whore, because I know all of you keep asking me what my Twitter is. I never link it. I never tell y'all, but it's at your music whore. I feel like a lot of people are taking this track at face value, no pun intended, and they aren't really understanding that it's not about Drake giving this information or the information being out there for so long. It means so much to Drake's fan base, and it means so much to Drake as an artist and a man, that I feel this actually does need to be addressed. I felt Pusha T's response was so disrespectful last night because it applied so strongly to Drake in terms of how this can affect who Drake is as a person. This is one of the few disses out there that I don't feel like was just limited to, oh, you a bitch, your mom's a hoe, your dad's a bitch. Like, I feel like this is one of those tracks that really emphasize the person. It's almost as if Pusha T was taking Drake through therapy on this track. And that's why, for me, it was so brutal. Excluding his lines about 40, because that was crazy. Number one, let's start off with the cover art. Blackface. I didn't speak on this last night because I felt I didn't know enough about it to speak on or review the actual image itself, because I knew it would be lacking context, which for most people, I don't really see why they expect Pusha T to keep the context of the photo, when as a rapper it is your job, if you're dissing another, to humiliate that rapper. If Pusha T was caught with his hands around another man's waist and the dude's pants were pulled down and he says, oh no, you got to keep this in context, I'm sure Drake wouldn't try to keep that in context. I'm sure he wouldn't, and it's understandable that he would. So stop with all that bullshit about, oh yeah, like he didn't keep context, he was too harsh. Welcome to the fucking rap game. That's what they do. So now that we're at the photo, right, we're looking at Drake with blackface. And do a little bit of research, you'll see that this photo wasn't just playtime for Drake. Drake wasn't taking the photo because he wanted to offend people. Drake was taking this picture because he was doing a promotional run, like a campaign for a new clothing brand at the time back in 2008 called Two Black Guys, I believe. And it was a part of their summer edition. But I don't know whose idea it was for Drake to pose with the blackface. I don't know if it was Drake's idea, the photographer's idea, the company's idea. I don't know whose idea it was. But here's the thing that makes it look weird. Drake is already a black man. Why are you wearing a black face? You are the last person in human history that needs to wear a black face. And I feel this ties into Pusha T's diss that much more in trying to say that Drake is an artist who's uncomfortable in his own skin. I initially thought when I first heard the song that him saying that you were afraid to wear your fro because it wasn't nap enough, I thought that was just a little bit of fodder. I thought it was kind of boring. I didn't think it had any purpose. I'm like, how does this tie into a diss to Drake? I'm not really feeling it. But now I'm looking at the blackface image, and I'm looking at, his comments on Infared where he says, you're up there dancing for the whites. And then I look at the track itself, the story of OJ, and it's a track where Jay-Z was talking about how classism separates black folk, but they don't realize that they're all the same, and how people think they're different from one another being black. I look back at this track with Pusha T and I'm like, he's using this track to kind of describe the distance that Drake has in the black community. He kind of shows that Drake is so far disconnected from it that he would believe that he would need to pose with blackface as a black man. That is the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not saying any of this because I'm on Pusha's side more than I'm on Drake's side. If Drake comes with his response and he's got some more poignant details and some more hard-hitting criticism of Pusha T, I'm going to be for that too. But again, since I feel like people are taking this track at face value, they don't really understand the impact that this has on an artist like Drake and how Pusha T is using all the events that have recently transpired to show this is why Drake is the way Drake is. I mentioned in my initial review to this song that he was using Drake's parents not being together and Drake's father being absent from his life as a representation for why Drake is absent in his son's life and not really able to be with that area or that person because he isn't confident enough in himself as a man to say, fuck it, I'm with a porn star. Fuck it. Who got something to say? His lines about Border Patrol and them not being able to just come over here at a wit's end. Shout out to Teray, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Wonderful podcast, but they were tweeting, or he was tweeting about it and saying that Adidon is actually the name of Drake's new Adidas campaign. And that if the name were to change, it would show just how much more impact this Pusha T diss really has. While I did interpret a pretty good amount of this accurately in the first listen, I would say there were still elements that I didn't tackle because I didn't realize at the time how deeply this thing actually was connected. If you take Pusha T saying that Drake isn't confident within himself to make the decision to be with the woman that he had a baby with because his father wasn't committed to him as a father, and that his father wasn't married to his mother, using the story of OJ to tie this into why Drake is held to such a high regard but so disconnected from that same community. But ask questions like, when I get it done, it's no longer black excellence on his diplomatic immunity track. Here's what I'm trying to say. Pusha T this entire time has tried to associate Drake's lack of blackness to his lack of identity because of his lack of fatherhood. He's tying all this together because for a lot of people, if you don't know, your father plays a big part in who you are supposed to be. Yes, you can identify yourself, you can become yourself regardless of who your parents are, but it's definitely a lot easier when your father is the one that's sitting there helping you mold who you're gonna be, especially as a son. Now, when Drake or Pusha T is saying that Drake didn't have that, he's saying that Drake is undergoing an identity crisis at the same time. This adds to the fact that Drake would need to use blackface, but he's already a black man. This adds to the fact that Drake is using all these other things to prove how black he is, like using his father or his uncle or his family that is deep within the Memphis culture, deep within the Southern culture, to prove why he is black. Also adding to the cover, maybe because Drake being a black man, he feels like he's not black enough, so he needs to darken his face to emphasize that this is actually me portraying a black man when I already am. That's weird. Saying that same lack of identity is why Drake is uncomfortable showing the decisions that he's made, his son and the mother of that child. Even if she is a porn star, he's saying that Drake isn't confident enough as a man to come out and show her to the world. Even at the end of the track, Pusha T is still not backing down when he says, "You're talking about you upset? I want to see you get angry," because Pusha T knows that there is a syndrome of the angry black man, and he's saying that Drake can't be a part of that if you're just upset. Now, I know people after watching this are also going to say that Mos Def was included in those people that represented the clothing line for two black guys. Any other artists you want to say represented that, it's fine. None of those guys were in blackface. People are also gonna say that Childish Gambino was the one who used Jim Crow's gesture in the beginning of his music video, This Is America. The only difference is Childish Gambino knows that he's fucking black. All he has to do is make a gesture. He doesn't have to wear a black face. That's a horrible defense for Drake in this image. It's horrible. Even if you add context, it makes Drake look worse. I made this because I really felt like I needed to get that out of there. Because there was a lot that I just felt like was just being taken at face value with this track, and people saying that he already told us information that we knew. It doesn't matter if you know. He's using it to make a point. He's not saying it just to say it. He's saying it because Drake is this way because of this. That's what he's trying to say. He's not just saying it because he feels like this is information that's unknown. Again, as I said before, I'm not really on anyone's side, but when there are poignant and valid points being made, I am going to try to elaborate on them, and you know, I'm gonna be in support of that deep shit, that kind of material that's trying to connect something to something. We'll see how Drake responds. If he does, I hope he does. And yeah, I'll be here. I'll be waiting for it. I just felt like this is things I needed to get out because I didn't feel like they were being discussed, and if they were, I just felt like they were being discussed in limited format like Twitter. So it's been Shawn C. Thank you for watching. Monitor the situation as close as possible. Let me know any new information that you find out as far as what Pusha T may have been saying or alluding to in this track. And I'll be out. I'll see you next time. Peace.